Oh, and the next thing, since we're on this, right? Uh, on movies, I should say, and adaptations, whatever you want to call it, is is Narnia. And um, let me just grab these books. So the biggest news right now in adaptation in Hollywood is that Netflix has got Barbie filmmaker Greta. Oh, let me find out what was her name. I don't want to get it wrong. Greta someone. Barbie. Right. So the lady who made, and I haven't seen Barbie. I thought it was quite cool. I saw like about 10 minutes or like 5 to 10 minutes of start, and I was like, this is a movie about Ken, about how males are treated in society right now, rather than, you know, about Barbie. Because, and I thought that was interesting. That was my takeaway. It was really, and that was only the like first 5 to 10 minutes of watching it, right? And I still haven't seen the rest of the movie and not really bothered. Um, I'm a toy collector, so I've got Barbies, right? Um, and I think there's like about 10 or 20 of them there, and some other like her scooter and some other stuff. Like there's actually a, a like a calculator, a Barbie calculator from the 80s or 90s. So let me, while I'm talking about that, let me put some visuals on for you guys so you have to see my face. It's like me hearing my voice all the time. I want to hear my voice all the time. So, you know, big movie, I mean, people liked it as much as they liked Red, but they didn't think it was worthy. Like, because, like, oh, but here's the thing about, like, um, when it comes to ratings, always look at fives and six say. What do the fives and six say? It's not what the tens and ones and then threes and nines say. Look at what the fives say because they're the people in the middle giving you honesty. And then you read that. You don't just go off the ratings they give, but read what are they saying in it. Because a lot of people who just give you tens will be like, sometimes they're plants, right? And you can tell because they've only been online for about a month, right? And you can, because I've been around enough times on IMDb and on review sites and all that to understand how how you game it, right? And so usually if I'm doing it, I'm going, how much work was put in this movie? Did it deliver on the story that they said they wanted to tell? Did it, did the actors do a great job? Did the directing, whatever? Because a lot of things, because as a filmmaker, I'll forgive. But when it comes to the story, I really won't. It'll be like, well, this is what you based it all around. It's the key thing is the story. So Greta Gerwig, right? She's the one who's been tasked with Netflix series about one of my like most favorite early reads, and that's the Chronicles of Narnia, right? Um, The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe. I remember being a kid watching the BBC live action interpretations of it, like adaptations of it in the 80s, right? I remember reading this at Catholic boarding school, right? And just being like fascinated by it. And I'm like, and and this is kind of like why I like Isekai, right? That let me just give you a really cool you know, hold on. So what get my pal here on ChatGPT. What is the exact meaning of the Japanese term isekai? If I can spell it right. Where are we? Get you onto that. I'm getting it all spelled wrong. All right. always get my my I don't know why, like my fingers, like, they always hit the wrong keys. Right. So the Japanese term isekai, and I said, I love watching isekai. It's one of my favorite anime manga genres. It's a genre, specific genre, right? And this was my first sort of like introduction to it. It was like, this world of C.S. Lewis, right? A Christian dude, compatriot and close friend of Tolkien, right? They're both Christians. They both, I think, and the thing was that, there's this whole, you can go into the law and you can, you know, the meetings they had, they sit together at a pub over a beer. They'll talk about what they were looking at doing. And as you can see, with Lord of the Rings, it went more like a, you know, older audience, with the words and stuff like that, and themes of war and stuff. Whereas with C.S. Lewis, he went with a more younger audience. Of course, older audience could read it, but he went with a younger audience, putting young kids in it. Like, that's the thing, right? It's got young kids in the Chronicles of Narnia in the time of war. And the books, it's about these kids, and we talked last time about like how during the Blitz, kids were like would set, like my dad was sent out to his aunties, right, in the in the rural areas out of Manchester and London, away from the cities that were being bombed by the Nazis at that time, right, in the Blitzkrieg, right, the Blitz, right. And so they'll start, they'll fly over at night when you couldn't see what was going on and drop bombs on the cities. And so it was mandated that all the kids would be sent out to the rural areas, and those people would be paid money and supplied with resources to look after the kids while their parents were working in the war effort, right? Some kids never returned home. Some kids were sent out into Australia, and I know I've read stories about being sent out into New Zealand and having the terrible life they had here. Some of them, right? Because they joined up, they were just sent out to people. They were like, yeah, we'll, without any sort of major research into who they were, because it was wartime. You don't have time to go, okay, let's do like 5 year study into their background, right? They don't have Chat GPT going, or like this internet's research into their social media, right, to figure out who they are really. And so hearing those terrible stories about how they were treating, even an Aussie, right? So it was kind of sad, because I know what my dad went through. Um, and so there was many kids, thousands, tens of thousands of kids, hundreds of thousands of kids went through that at a very young age, right? Um, to get them away from, having bombs dropped on them. And this is why I can empathize and with Israel, because I have members of my family had to go through that. And this is why I think empathy is really important, because if you can't put yourself into another person's shoe and understand their situation, and really you shouldn't really just speak out of your ass about it, right? Oh, yeah, they're the bad people. Like, yeah, but have you been there? And that's what I can say. I can speak on behalf of Palestinians, not because I'm there, but because I can see what's been happening to them for decades by their own people, by their neighbors. And I'm not meaning Israel. All right. So anyway, this was my first experience with isekai. Even, the Japanese call it isekai, but like for us, it's parallel world. And I love the idea of, I guess in a way I didn't understand it when I first read it, right? But after a while, I think maybe when I was in my teens, I understood it because when I first read it, I was in my pre-teens, and then I'd sit there and watch you know, the BBC um, live action kids, playing it out, and stage plays being put into film. Sorry, putting on like stage plays being recorded, and then here in New Zealand, it'll be on our TV, right? And so I'd get to understand it better. But the other thing about this is that I actually it influenced me majorly as well as like with Isekai that I created another a comic work of my own, a comic universe of my own called Zeolandia, right? Which is about walking into another world or as somehow accidentally getting there and all these different ways of getting to this world called Zealandia. We have finished the first issue. The artwork's been done. It's just been tweaked because we were going to do it colored, but then I realized that it's going to cost a bit of money, so let's just go with black and white. And so my artist Joachim Hagström, he's a Swedish guy, amazing talented. Like seriously, when I saw him, I was like, I gotta have him, and I would love to work with him, and he was willing to work with me, right? And we've done this, done this amazing book. I think we're looking at 6 issues. Well, I'm not saying I'm looking at 6 issues. I'm like hoping it'll carry on, is what I mean. Like, so and it's just about this young girl who finds a teenager who finds herself there, right? And this world around elves, around mermaids, around so many different creatures, fantasy creatures, and like you can see, like the where influence comes from. And so Greta, right, Gerwig has come out and said, like, well, I'm going to turn into like a musical thing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to modernize the audience, right? And I'm like, please don't do that, because we already have, the Lion the Witch, and we had the last battle, I think it was as well. That's already been done. Like, what was like? I remember seeing it in Fiji. Like, we were there, and what year was that? The Lion, the Witch. Because I remember being in Fiji. Yeah, the Chronicles of Narnia, 2005. So yeah, that would have been like in 2005 when we were in Fiji, and I actually got into a aggressive moment, let's say, with a group of teenagers, Indian teenagers, who basically were fighting, messing around, and we had actually been like, we were looking after this young girl. She was like about 8 or maybe 10, who was a neighbor's daughter, and he was a solo father. So while my ex-wife and I were in Fiji at her sister and her husband's place, sister's husband's place, visiting for that week, we'd take this kid everywhere because we're like, let's make, you know, we're always like, we're at the stage where like, why don't we adopt her? Could we adopt this girl because she was such a great kid? And we thought like, wouldn't it be awesome to, because we didn't have any children. We never had children, right? And this is like about 4 years, 5 years after being married. And we'd just gone to Fiji on a holiday, right? After like studying hard out because both of us were studying for our degrees and then working part time. And I was like working like something like about 20 to 30 hours a week and then doing 40 hours at school or more. It was just like, okay, work is over. Sorry, school is over. Am I on shift today? Yeah, let's go. If I'm not on shift, can you put me on shift? Okay. Saturday, Sunday, 7 days a week, whenever I'm available. Night shift, I'm ready. Sometimes I would get called in the daytime. Hey, someone's sick or hasn't turned up. Can you, come in? I'm in class. Man, we really need you. Okay, I'm there. And then I have to go back after and, do my work. So it's crazy, but like I did it. I'm grateful for it. I got the certificate. I've got all the experiences. Now it's led me into writing comics because all I cared about was writing stories. So we're in Fiji, right? With this young kid, and like the aircon, really flashy. This is like for the really flashy cinema. It's really classy. It's like really done up, real clean. And we're watching the moment when Aslan, and of course, if you haven't seen this, sorry, spoilers, right? You should have already seen, The Lion, the Witch, right? Movie. You should have already seen it. If you're not, if you've never seen it, please go see it. It's one of the greatest, you know, comic fiction, not, fiction storybooks that you could read. This is like friggin' the greatest. Is it seven of them? I think it's seven. No, six books, right? No, seven. Yeah, seven books. Did I double up? No, I didn't. So there's like the Magician's Nephew, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Horse and its Boy. Then there's also the Silver Chair, the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and also the last battle and Prince Caspian. Right. So we're in Fiji and in the cinema, and this young, like, there's me, my ex-wife, and then the girl that we're looking after, right? Kind of babysitting. We, like, seriously, we took her everywhere. We fed her. We made sure, like, we were really like in love with this child, right? Because she was such a great. I was like her mom wasn't there. Her dad's working, and yet she was this bubbly kid. And I think we actually bought her clothes as well. My ex-wife was so smitten with her, and I was like, it was like, a ready-made baby child, whatever, would be so cool, well behaved, like, oh, if we had it. But anyway, as our child, adopted child, and so we're sitting there watching, and it comes to the sad part, and it's for me, like, seeing that, having read it as a child, that's probably the same age as the little girl, and watching the movie, and then watching the stone altar scene. I don't want to spoil it. And these kids in front of us just laughing and like throwing things at each other, popcorn, ice. And then they flip the thing and tip it all over the girl. And I lost it. I was like, all through the movie, you guys have been, messing around. And I can excuse, okay, you're young and I can understand that. But the moment you throw something on a little kid, Coca-Cola on her dress, right? And it's Fiji, like this, right? So it's like hotter than that, like 35 degrees. It's a sunny day, because I remember it was about this time that we went, it was Christmas time. And yeah, it was very hot summer, because Fiji gets really humid. It's right next to the equator. And so, like, it's really tropical. So it'll be like raining, and 5 seconds later or 5 minutes later, it'll be sunny. And because of the rain and the humidity, it'll all get sticky. And, like, you're sweating, and then you get rain, and then now that sweat, I mean, sorry, it's raining, and then it stops, and then gets hot instantly, and and then you start turning sticky, right? So you're like, and then think of that. We're about to go outside into that heat, and the young girls just had Coke splashed all over her, and I'm like, this is my kid. At this point, we're treating like, oh, that's our child, right? And so I'm like, how dare you? And I was like, just kick the back of the friggin', because at that point I was like all so riled up, because they've been laughing through the most serious moment, because I'm living that moment with the altar, right? Aslan, the altar, and I'm really emotional. Yet, okay, I can handle it. But then, so I'm like, I kick the back of this chair, and my ex looks at me like, what the hell are you doing? And so I go out, after the movie ends, I'm waiting for these kids at the door to give them a talking down to. And my wife goes, come on, let's just go. And I'm like, I remember afterwards going, you should have just let it go and stop being an a-hole, right? Like, but the emotions, the whole, like, the, you know, the tie-in with Narnia, with Aslan, with that world as a kid, and then having someone having that moment ruined for them. That's they're seeing what I read, and not only that, that we were trying to, you know, basically all week have been like making sure that at that time that we had that week, that this was the best week of her life, and to have these a-holes ruin it, because hey, teenage, whatever, just really, and I know, that's why afterwards I was like, man, I shouldn't have done that, because like my ex was like, oh, my case deserve it so, right, and rightfully so, because you know I'm the adult in the room, but the fact that it was like they did that to the child, that's when I lost it. Not ruining the movie for us and everybody else. By the way, it was a packed house, right? And so yapping away on their phones, the whole works. Anyway, the reason I'm saying that is like Greta Gerwig is basically going to do like bastardize this great work, right? Um, and so I'm not really happy about that, and I think that's quite sad too. I hate watching other artists and creatives and writers' works being ruined after they're gone, because they're not here to say, hey, I don't want this done to my work. I don't think you should be the person to work on it. I don't think you're the right person for it, you know, and you're not the one who should be doing it. And let's find someone who's in love with this world, who actually, cares about this world, right? And, is gonna honor it, because it's not your world that you created, and it's beloved around the world, right? This is like, talking about that, let's go find out how many um, Chronicles of Narnia have been sold, right? So, oh yeah, sorry, before we jump on that, let's get to the meaning of Isekai, right? Like I said, I always like segue, and then I forget to segue back, right? So the Japanese term Isekai translates to different world or other world. It is a compound of two kanji, right? Two Japanese words. Different, other, or unusual, I, right? Or Sekai. Oh, sorry, is it I? Isekai. Yeah, sorry, E. And then Sekai, right? World or universe. It's a crazy world. It's a mad world, right? In Japanese media, Isekai refers to a genre of fiction where the protagonist is transported or reborn or trapped in a parallel or alternate world. Um, Talking about that, let me show you some work from, um, and hopefully you guys would want to follow the channel right on Twitter, because I'm sure I could, you know, you you can check out some artwork there and stuff. And we're building a website for it and everything. I've been working on it. Once more, the more art we get, the more we build up. And of course, when you see a comic book, it's 10% of the entire work that we actually do for each issue, because there's like so much work goes into the design and to background of characters that you don't even know about, that will later on might like go, oh yeah, this happened because of this happened, right? So this is the X um, X channel, X page, homepage that we have for it. Am I not even following my own one? Oh well. Usually I'm like, I try not to like comment on my own posts. It's like I feel like it's kind of like it's weird to do that or like your own post. But so Is there, or is it on profiles that you see the work? Actually, that's why I didn't follow, because dang it, go back to Isekai. Right. This is exactly why I didn't follow it, because that means that it's kind of ties my politics into that. I just want people to just enjoy that world. Um, so yeah, so here's me trying to just do some not politics, planning, right? So look at the amazing artwork. I was just having a bit of fun with this, but like, man, Iwakim did, and this is just a little tiny panel. That's why you can just see it's like a little cutoff piece, and the details he puts into this, and he inks his own stuff, and he does pen and paper, right? It's pen and paper, uh, pencils, and what have you. And he actually inspired one of our friends to, viewers to actually get back to drawing again, pen and paper. So I was like, because I had Iwakim on the channel. So this is me like planning an area underground, that all this gray area we haven't even looked at what's going to happen yet. Like in the future we will, but you know about this group called the Witchmaids of Korath, their grand hall, right, where they live underground in these underwater caves type thing, right? And this is like planning for a wedding between a person who's gone there from our world and a person from their world, right? And so I just, basically did a plan out, because I was like, how do I freaking, I'm gonna be like doing pages and pages of description about this, this room, but why don't I just like mock it up, right? Where everybody's sitting. So when he does the characters, he knows where those characters are that he's designing, and I'm just giving him references. This is what they look like, of photos. This is what I want them to kind of look like. So can, interpret them in your own way, kind of thing. So yeah, all the important things, right? So it's kind of media. Yeah. So here's some more artwork. Yeah. This is Dramzel, and this is our lead character. Yeah, and that's her mentor, Dramzel, teaching her for a couple of years how to learn to survive in this sword and sorcery fantasy world, right? Um, and here's the pencils. Look at that. That's just like the if you watch the actual um, live stream we did about this, you know, just this is basically the mountain that's out there. This castle. This is the mountain out there, and so I tied our New Zealand into this world. Zealandia is basically a fantasy version of New Zealand in that world. Um, and the world itself is just called Akashara. Like our world's called Earth, right? But theirs called Akashara. So yeah, and this is just like the early stages of like what we're looking at doing and where everything is. So you can go, oh, so this is like Whangarei, which is where I live right now, and so that's where that's where the castles are, and that's what those people live. Dwarfs live here, elves live there, mermaids live there, dragons live there, that sort of thing. So, and flip back to, should put that up there. So flip back to Isekai again on ChatGPT before I move on to what I was going to ask it, which was how many chronicles of Narnia books book series has been re- bought. I think there's printed, and then there's released, and then like actually how many people actually bought it, right? Because that's what that's really what it comes down to. I could print like 1,000 copies of something and only sell three, right? So that only means that only three people read it. So it really comes down to like, um, so yeah. So I was talking about like how people end up there. It's like my one's like if there's it's kind of like maybe magical, like an antique, some sort of antique rib, right? Or or you just walk into a cave and like you know, it's some sort of pocket is there and portal that transports you there. Or if you like maybe fall asleep in a dream and you while dreaming of that place and you're there. So I don't want to like confine it to just one element because I wanted to bring so many elements into the idea of isekai, into the transportation of it. Like walking into caves, maybe walking into a room at that specific time gets you there, right? Or you have an accident, you know, and you hit body switch, which is a lot. Sometimes it happens in isekai as well. Like the person from that world comes into this world, right? Um, but this is all kind of part of like the whole magic world of Plunge universe that I've created, right? So you get tie-ins, with other books, and so yeah. Anyway, so so that in isekai with so it's the same thing here, mechanisms of transportation. The protagonist may be transported through reincarnation, magical summoning, or mysterious accidents, e.g. falling through a portal or dying and waking up in a new world. Setting, right? So this almost there, guys, with this one. Then we'll move on to the next one, uh, to the main theme, right? And so setting, the new world may resemble a video game, right? Like one of my favorites, Overlord. I have, oh, she's over there. Yeah, from Overlord, the horned winged creature, demon creature. Man, I love Overlord. I can't get enough of it. I need to start reading the manga. I think that's what I should do. If I'm not getting enough of it, I should start reading the manga, right? Because manga's like a year ahead all the time, almost. Um, so I'm all caught up on the anime, but you know. So yeah, so setting the new world may resemble a video game, mythological realm, which is what I'm doing, or a completely alien environment. Like it could be like totally, totally different. Like it could be nothing to do with humans at all, right? Protagonist is protagonist protagonist. No. Okay, the lead person's role, right? Often involves a protagonist. I think it's the S after it that I couldn't get right. I was like, I just said it. Uh, Often involves adapting to the new world's culture challenges, typically gaining special powers, skills, or statuses. So with Zeolandia and with our lead character, um, she has to learn skills like sword play, right? With fighting, because she's never had to do that in New Zealand, right? As a 16, 17-year-old, right? So she is having to be taught the language, right? The area that she lives in, all the types of people. And so she's kind of like has to learn that. And there's a lot of, time to spend her learning because, you know, the worst thing can be like, I mean, like that's the thing about Isekai, has been thrust into a new world and go, oh, yeah, you're on your own. And I was like, well, how do I how do I work the story so that like it's real, right? It's a real situation. Like like not like a real situation, but like what would happen if it happened to you? Would you, what would you need? What sort of resources you'd have to learn or skills you need to get, because You're a Stranger in a Strange Land, right? The book and the song by Iron Maiden, right?